Oh, don't mind me, I'm just sanding my wood here with a hammer. What do you mean a hammer's not the right tool to sand wood with? Of course it's not. And that brings me to my point. When you're at the lathe, always, always, always use the right tool for what you're doing. There's two orientations for wood on the lathe. Now, it's always going to spin from the headstock, but you can have it oriented in spindle orientation where the grain runs this way on and it turns like this. And that is a very safe orientation. Then you have faceplate orientation or bowl or platter orientation, whatever you want to call it. And that is where you have a piece, you slap a faceplate on it, put it on, and now it's going to turn like this. Well, guess what? You have the grain of the wood running this way. So sometimes you're cutting into side grain and other times you're cutting into end grain. Whereas when a spindle turns, you're always cutting downhill towards the end grain, but you're always cutting side grain. So very different kind of thing. And you think, what's the big deal? I'm going to tell you what the big deal is. This tool right here, it's called a spindle roughing gouge. Not a roughing gouge, spindle roughing gouge, because it is only for turning wood in spindle orientation. Look at how wide that flute is. Look at how deep that flute is. Look at the cutting edge on that. Now, it's perfectly fine. It's very safe, not overly aggressive when you're doing spindle turning. You want to do faceplate or bowl turning with this, you could end up in a world of hurt. Do not. So, say that this wood is spinning at 500 RPM. So that means that 1,000 times a minute you're encountering side grain, and 1,000 times a minute you're encountering end grain. And this is so aggressive on end grain, it's not good. And it gets worse than that. Now, best thing that's going to happen is you're going to rip a chunk out of your workpiece because it's way, way the wrong tool for that. It's going to be too aggressive on end grain. That's your best case scenario. Your second best scenario is where the tool snaps at the tang and the tool does not hit you or damage anything that you own. But the worst thing that can happen is this can draw you in. Right? If you get a really bad catch, a leveraged catch, it can pull a finger in. You could end up with a finger injury. It could snap this off and throw it back at you. Really bad day. Now, this video doesn't cover every tool and how to use it safely. The point is, no matter what tool you're using, learn how it works, learn when to use it, when not to use it. Stay safe so that you can enjoy decades of turning.